What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So yesterday we had that 30-minute state of play from Sony, and from what I could tell online, people were pretty disappointed and underwhelmed in the whole thing. We're gonna go over all of it here today because there was one really cool surprise there towards the end. Also, we're gonna talk about the Pokemon Presents, or the Pokemon Direct that's happening later on this morning, give a few thoughts and even some predictions thrown in there. And we're also gonna talk about Sony's continuous shift away from the Japanese gaming market as they are looking to now wind down one of their more prominent studios. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new to this following channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're gonna start today with Call of Duty Warzone. It comes up every time we talk about large file sizes. Remember, it started off like, oh, Call of Duty's over 100 gigabytes. Then it became, this Call of Duty game doesn't fit on my 250 gigabyte SSD. And now we are to the point where that 500 gigabyte PlayStation 4 original is coming into question. Let's head over here to Eurogamer, where they say Activision warns a standard 500 gigabyte PS4 may no longer fit Call of Duty Warzone, Black Ops, Cold War, and Modern Warfare. Now, the update in question's like 17 gigabytes. However, they seem to have piled so much on top of this game that they feel the need to warn anyone with a 500 gigabyte PS4 that you might need to free up some space, which may come down to you deleting parts of the game to make room for it. Now, when you downloaded games on like the PlayStation 4, from what I remember, you needed more space than what was advertised because you have to download the part, then it has to unpack, install that part, and then that one section that you just had to free up for goes away. You're basically moving blocks around if you don't have a lot of space. And it seems that Warzone will continue to grow. It really, I mean, it started, like I said, 100 gigabytes. It's moved up more and more and more. And it does make me think a bit about that 820 gigabyte, which obviously is much less than that, SSD inside of the PlayStation 5. I don't know if it's in question anytime soon, but Warzone keeps getting bigger. So hopefully Sony has those NVMe drives figured out soon. Also, several Bravely Default 2 reviews hit yesterday after the embargo lifted, and it was jumping around on Metacritic. Started like an 80, but it seems to have settled now, as you can see here, at a 77 on Metacritic. And looking through some of the reviews, there was even a perfect 100 thrown in there, but there was a 90, a bunch of 80s, an 85, and even someone like the lower end of the spectrum, with one being a 40 even, I believe that from Telegraph. And actually, after going through a lot of these different reviews, it really just came down to what you wanted out of this game when it comes down to it being like a traditional classic JRPG or one that would try new things. A lot of it was pointed out from some reviewers that did not like the game as much that they didn't really try any new mechanics really put into the JRPG classic style, whereas people who liked it were looking for a classic JRPG. So just from the reviews I've seen here, it comes down to that. But I recommend trying the demo out, because if you play it and you're like, oh, okay, I like this very traditional style JRPG, you'll probably get a kick out of the rest of the game because everyone really said the story was pretty good and pulled them through it well enough. Oh, and yesterday, Square announced 2 other Final Fantasy VII games. There's just one issue. It's for cell phones. It's not coming to any consoles or anything. Yeah, you can see the trailer here for the first one. This is Final Fantasy VII, The First Soldier. It's actually a battle royale game, which is interesting. It's set in Midgar 30 years before the events of Final Fantasy VII, where you play as a soldier candidate, and it looks like a third-person action shooter style game, which is interesting. It's coming out at some point in 2021. That's on iOS and Android. The one that I thought looked really cool, though, is Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. This isn't coming out till 2022, also on iOS and Android, and they describe it as a chapter-structured single-player game that covers the whole Final Fantasy VII timeline, which apparently will include like Advent Children, Before Crisis, Crisis Core, Dirge of Cerberus even. I don't get it. Like, all right, so I guess Square is looking at this and saying, hey, there's a lot of people play phone games. Let's try this out. And like, I guess it's kind of like Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition that eventually went to system. So maybe these will also, or maybe like one of these is going to be, I don't know, like a free-to-play style game, although Ever Crisis is a single player, and I don't know, Square, you got to get these on systems. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start with that state of play from Sony. It's about 30 minutes long. I live streamed it to check it out. I thought it would be maybe a little more interesting, but as we were going through, a lot of people in the chat and myself realized we've seen a lot of these games before, and well, let's take a look at the list here for all of the different games that they showed. We'll save the last one, which is the Final Fantasy VII Remake stuff, for the next section, have that separate, because there is a lot to go over there as well. Anyway, starting from the top here, they did show Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. That is the PS5 update that will be coming March 12th. If you already have the game on your PS4, it will be a free upgrade. Then they showed off more of Returnal. That's coming out April 30th, and I think I've seen enough Returnal at this point. Like, I'm just ready to pick it up. Like I said, it got delayed until April 30th, but from what they showed, it started out as like a horror game to me, and then it turned into an action game. But then at the end of this latest trailer they showed, it turned more again into a horror game where you walk through a door, and it kind of had some PT vibes actually at the end there. And then they showed off Sifu. It's an intense kung fu experience. That's coming 2021. They had Knockout City. It's a dodgeball style game that we already saw in that Nintendo Direct. It's $20, coming out May 21st. They showed a little more here in the State of Play. It's interesting that this game showed up both in the Direct and the State of Play. Kind of feels like EA is trying pretty hard to push this game. They showed off some like trick shots and stuff, and I'm kind of thinking this game might get forgotten about here, but at least it has a unique concept, I guess. And then we have Solar Ash. That's from the Hyper Light Drifter developers. It's coming out in 2021. We saw Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, and I have to ask some FNAF fans out there about this one, because from what I remember with Five Nights at Freddy's, a lot of it took place with you kind of looking through security cameras and all this and kind of mousing around and checking out different areas. This looks like you're just controlling a person and just kind of running around with the animatronics also roaming around. So it kind of, to me anyway, defeats the idea of what made Five Nights at Freddy's popular. But hey, let me know if you've been following the Five Nights at Freddy's scene and this is something you guys were looking for. Oddworld Soulstorm, which I'm interested in Oddworld Soulstorm. I've liked Oddworld since the PS1, so I'll be checking this one out. Coming out April 6th. It is apparently hitting PlayStation Plus on the PS5 immediately. It's also coming out on the PS4. And then we saw another trailer for Deathloop that's coming out May 21st. I'm already sold on Deathloop. It's from Arcane. I'll check it out when it releases then. And the bright spot, I think, for the State of Play was Kenna Bridge of Spirits. I really like the art style, the visuals of this game. It looks like a lot of fun. It's coming out August 24th, though. I was thinking that one would drop in March. There have been a lot of talks about that. And no, it's actually coming out much later than a lot of us were anticipating. I mean, it's like almost a full 5 months later than we were thinking. So that's a bit disappointing. It takes some more time, I guess, to figure it all out. It's gonna be a $40 game when it drops, or $50 if you want like the deluxe edition they're going to have. But that one will be on the PS4, the PS5, and the Epic Game Store on PC. But the big thing that a lot of people, I'm sure, will be talking about from this State of Play was the last thing that they showed, and that had to do with Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, during the stream, before State of Play started, we were talking about predictions and things that a lot of us were coming up with. Yeah, Final Fantasy VII Remake will see some sort of PlayStation 5 patch, and it is getting that, but it's also getting story downloadable content, and this is where things get a bit interesting because it could lead to some other DLC, maybe introduce some more characters even. Let's take a look at some of the trailer they showed off, because the biggest thing here is Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade will have enhanced visuals, faster load times, and even a full photo mode that people I'm sure will have a ton of fun with. It's coming out June 10th, and if you already have it on the PS4 and you have a PS5, you will have a free upgrade for all of the extra features, but the story content that they are introducing will be purchased separately. That will have, apparently, Yuffie introduced as a character, which is really cool to see that, because that, of course, means that maybe we could have other DLC introducing a character like Vincent. Maybe they want to do flashbacks and jump around. Maybe they have a full DLC to play around with the idea of Zack maybe being introduced in some way as well on his own. Like, a lot of things they could do. They go back to like Crisis Core and show that off. So this is neat. I mean, we'll see what they want to do with it and how much longer until we get to Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2. This could be a way for them to continue bridging the gap and adding more and more content for us to, I mean, really buy, but continue showing off this new story now that they want to tell. And I'm all for that. It's just, it's going to depend on how many editions of Final Fantasy Remake we get. I mean, we get to the end of this whole thing after all of the parts come out, and we get this massive, like, Lord of the Rings looking book of all these discs to go through the entirety of the Final Fantasy VII Remake Complete Edition. Oh, also, I want to point this out. Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade is up right now on Square's website, and they have it marked at $70 for the PS5 version. Now, I know what you're thinking, okay, that's coming with the DLC that they have not technically marked for the pricing yet. Maybe that means that the price is $10. It could even be $15. They're giving us like a $5 deal here. I think this is Square's way to quietly and slowly introduce that $70 price tag. I have a strong feeling Final Fantasy 16 will be $70 and Square will start to work and move more and more of their IPs and bigger games over to that price. As I've said before, I think the overall gaming landscape is going to accept and adopt this $70 price tag. And there's just Square kind of moving in that direction, but trying to do it in a way to where we don't get that massive whiplash of, oh, now Square's games are $70. But that was the entire state of play. Big high points for me was certainly Kenna, Bridge of Spirits, and the Final Fantasy VII Remake stuff, because I am curious where they'll go with the DLC after Yuffie's story and all of that is introduced. Yeah, not the greatest state of play, certainly below average for me, and I can see why a lot of people were underwhelmed and disappointed for it, but we'll see. I'm sure Sony has another one that they'll have ready to go midway through the year so they can start talking about their holiday and whatever game they have in store for us there. Next up, let's talk about the big Pokemon event that will be airing a couple of hours after this video goes up in the morning. We head over to Twitter here. This from Pokemon saying, "Get ready trainers, a Pokemon Presents video presentation will be taking place on the official Pokemon YouTube channel tomorrow, Friday, February 26th at 7 a.m. Pacific time. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell to be the first in the loop." That's right. Hit the bell, subscribe, all of that. Thanks, Pokemon. But looking at this, everyone was kind of expecting it. I mean, the Pokemon Day is coming up, this weekend? Naturally, they want to do some sort of big event to start announcing all kinds of stuff we can buy from the Pokemon company. And now we get to try to think about, as we roll up to the event, what would they announce here? Obviously, Pokemon Sleep. They have to talk about that. They haven't said anything since they, for some reason, showed it to us without it being at all ready to go. I mean, really, they left us with that. It's like you put this on your bed and your Pokemon level up for some reason or something. So, well, we'll see. I wouldn't mind them talking about that just so I can figure out what exactly we do with it and what its purpose is. Anyway, outside of that, though, everyone expects the big Pokemon holiday game to be here, and everyone is kind of leaning towards the idea of Pokemon Diamond and Pearl remakes. And I mean, there's been a lot of hinting towards it, so we're all expecting it. I don't know if they'll throw a curveball for that one. I think it just makes sense for them to finally do it, because no matter what they announce, someone will be mad, so might as well do Diamond and Pearl and get that out there. I would also like to see them talk a bit more about Pokemon Unite. I'm sure that'll be a big moneymaker for them overall for the Switch and mobile phones, but then we also have to talk about something like a really cool celebratory shadow drop, like Pokemon Yellow on the Switch. Look, they'll probably put it out for $20 and we'll all buy it again. Let's just be real. And maybe they do something like online trading, so I can finally get my Alakazam without having to rely on the kid down the street with his link cable from back in the day. And maybe they do like online battles and stuff. Just something fun, something nostalgic to celebrate the 25 years of Pokemon. But look forward to that event a couple of hours after this video goes live. Should be a lot of fun. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Sony and their shift away from the Japanese gaming market. There were a lot of stories that have been coming out recently about how it feels like Sony and PlayStation are not that invested in Japan anymore. And I mean, we've seen them do things like change circle and cross around when it comes to select and cancel and all of this. And we see the stock that they're sending to Japan, not a lot. So now we hear that Sony is actually winding down Japan's studio. And I wasn't surprised when I saw this, but I was kind of sad, I'll be honest. Let's head over to VGC. They had the story ahead of Sony confirming this. They say the iconic developer behind Ape Escape, Gravity Rush, and Knack has seen the vast majority of its development staff let go, the sources said, after their annual contracts were not renewed ahead of the company's next business year, which begins April 1st. Localization and business staff will remain in place, and Asobi Team, the group responsible for the Astrobot games, will continue as a standalone studio within Sony Japan, it's claimed. Now, later on, Sony did confirm this, saying, in an effort to further strengthen business operations, SIE can confirm PlayStation Studios Japan will be reorganized into a new organization on April 1st. Japan Studio will be recentered to Team Asobi, the creative team behind Astro's Playroom, allowing the team to focus on a single vision and build on the popularity of Astro's Playroom. In addition, the roles of external production, software localization, and IP management of Japan Studio titles will be concentrated within the global functions of PlayStation Studio. So what I'm looking at here here is they are taking some of the staff, moving them to Team Asobi, and I hope that means that a really good Astrobot will happen. Like, I mean, Astro's Playroom is awesome, but I'm thinking like big time here. I'm thinking like they get an actual budget, they spend years developing it, and they come out with an awesome 3D platforming Astrobot game that's not tied to VR, and it probably will be at this rate. They'll have Astrobot once again be something that drives PlayStation VR 2 sales, and I'm sure they'll come out with some really cool stuff, but it does limit its overall reach, and I think Astro could end up being a mascot for Sony in the future here. But remember that Ape Escape stuff? Remember that Twitter account happened? And we were like, whoa, Ape Escape's coming back. And then they sent one of the apes into the forest, really sad-like. Now it makes sense what's happening here. So yeah, it's a shame. Gravity Rush, Ape Escape, Knack. We need Knack 3, don't we? Like, what? Yeah, so I guess that's it for Japan's studio, basically being broken up and absorbed into PlayStation's global studios here. And I guess on one side, at least, Team Asobi gets a bit stronger. But yeah, just an ended era there for Japan's studio, and just shows more and more Sony's interests are waning in the overall Japanese gaming market. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday. This was after that Pokemon event was announced. I asked, will the Diamond Pearl remakes be announced tomorrow during the Pokemon Direct? I like to lock in people's decisions here just ahead of the announcement if I can, where it says, yes, it's the big holiday game. 59% of you do think it's going to happen though, but 41% of you say they have something else in mind. What if they have the next big Pokemon game? Maybe a Let's Go game. What if it's Diamond and Pearl Let's Go? Ooh, that will be interesting to see the internet after that. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Louis saying, EA and BioWare did to Anthem is the same thing they did to Mass Effect. This is nothing new. I bet they will do the same thing to Dragon Age 4 in the future. So good news on that front. Jason Schreier posted an article saying that they had pivoted from their original plans of a live service for Dragon Age, moving to it being a single-player RPG. And I really think BioWare could be on thin ice with EA, and we've seen EA just cut down and get rid of and absorb different studios. I'm starting to feel like BioWare has to put out a good game after what happened with something like Anthem and the last Mass Effect and all of that. So here's hoping that Dragon Age, now that they are focused on a single-player RPG, is really good, because I think BioWare needs it. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today, whether it's the state of play. Let me know what you thought about that presentation. Also, what about the big Pokemon event coming up today? Any last minute predictions? Leave them below. And what about Japan studio being absorbed and dissolved? It is an end of an era there for some of those games, I'm sure, as we probably won't be seeing another Gravity Rush or Ape Escape for quite a while. Thanks guys for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time for Newswave.